June 11th, 2025. A genius, a mind that saw music in colors, and a fragile soul. Gone. Brian Wilson, the mastermind behind the Beach Boys, passed away at the age of 82, leaving behind a legacy that shaped generations. His family announced the death on Instagram. They did not reveal where or when he died, nor did they state the cause. But in recent years, Brian had been battling a major neurocognitive disorder and had been diagnosed with dementia. Behind the harmony was always complexity, a life marked by brilliance, by inner battles, by towering highs and devastating lows. Today, we honor the life of Brian Wilson, his professional legacy, his personal struggles, and the family that stood by him until the very end. In 1961, a group of California kids with surfboards and harmonies changed music forever. At the center of it all was Brian Wilson, a quiet genius with a gift for melody and a mind that heard music in colors. With his brothers Dennis and Carl, cousin Mike Love, and friend Al Jardine, Brian co-founded the Beach Boys. Their sound, sun-soaked, harmony-rich, and deceptively complex, defined a generation. Hits like Surfin' USA, California Girls, and I Get Around weren't just chart toppers, they were cultural touchstones. What made Brian's genius even more remarkable was that he was completely deaf in his right ear due to a childhood injury that severed the eighth nerve. Doctors said he had 95 to 98% hearing loss on that side, but Brian turned that limitation into a strength. He composed in mono, relying entirely on one ear to build the layered harmonies that became the Beach Boys' signature. As he once said, maybe limits help you to focus. In 1966, he released Pet Sounds, a lush, emotional masterpiece that redefined what an album could be. It didn't just move fans, it moved legends. Elton John described him as the biggest influence on my songwriting. Paul McCartney once said that Pet Sounds inspired the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, and that God Only Knows is his favorite song of all time. In his own words, it made me cry, and I don't quite know why. It was just something so deep in it. And then came Good Vibrations, a song so ambitious it took 6 months to record and became one of the most iconic singles in history. Brian Wilson wasn't just making music, he was building symphonies for the soul. Behind the harmonies was a man in pain. Brian Wilson battled mental illness for most of his life. He experienced audio hallucinations, paranoia, mania, and was diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder. He struggled with depression, addiction, and the pressure of fame. As the Beach Boys' success continued to skyrocket in the 60s and 70s, Brian turned to heavier drug use, particularly cocaine and hallucinogens such as LSD. The alcohol abuse and overeating pushed his weight past 300 pounds. He fell further into seclusion. At times, he withdrew completely, spending years in bed, disconnected from the world. Brian's then-wife, Marilyn, hired psychologist Dr. Eugene Landy to help the musician control his drug dependency. Brian was placed under the controversial care of the therapist, who monitored the singer 24 hours a day. Landy ended up losing his license and was accused of exploiting his patient. Landy's control over Brian's life became the subject of legal battles and inspired the acclaimed film Love and Mercy. Eventually, Brian's health improved. He found the right doctors and therapy. He admitted he continued to struggle, but lived a wonderful and productive life. He said, "On my good days, I feel creative. I laugh a lot. I go to my piano and play. Some days I don't feel creative and I don't talk to anybody." Brian Wilson's life wasn't just about music. It was about love, family, and resilience. He married twice. With his first wife, Marilyn Ravel, he had 2 daughters, Carney and Wendy, who would go on to form the chart-topping group, Wilson Phillips. They divorced in 1979 after 15 years of marriage. In 1995, Brian married Melinda Ledbetter, a former model and car saleswoman who became his manager, his advocate, and his anchor. Brian's friends credit his well-being in his later years to Melinda, who got him to see the right doctors. Together, they adopted 5 children: Dakota, Daria, Delaney, Dylan, and Dash. Melinda passed away in January 2024, and Brian's grief was profound. He called her his savior. In his final years, Brian was diagnosed with a major neurocognitive disorder. His family filed for conservatorship to ensure he could remain in the home he loved, surrounded by his children and longtime caregivers. Though his memory faded, his music never left him. Rest in peace, dear VIP.